Some brands offer you low finance, or cashback, or servicing.
Renault don't do ors. We do ands. The Renault Kadjar with 1.91% APR and €1,000 cashback and 3 years servicing, saving you thousands. Renault, the brand with the ands. Visit your local Renault dealer. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required. Subject to lending criteria. See Renault.ie.
Hey, this is James Arnold Taylor, voice actor, the voice of Yabba Dabba Doo, Fred Flintstone,
Johnny Test, who's 11 years old and totally awesome,
Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, Tidus from Final Fantasy X, oh yes, and of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It wouldn't be Coffee with Kenobi without yours truly. The force is strong here indeed. Previously on Coffee with Kenobi.
Now, I just have to ask, are you interested in knowing what the flavors of each of these bombs are?
Oh my god.
Yes, immediately.
Here we go. C-3PO is golden apple pineapple. Bleep bloop blueberry is our two. Then Darth Vader is dark side espresso.
I don't know what's better, hearing Tom get through this without laughing or hearing Holly's reactions. This is gold, right?
I'm very excited about lip balm. I'm not even...
Oh, this is the perfect story then.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Hello and welcome to show number 121 of Coffee with Kenobi, your spoiler-free place for Star Wars discussion, analysis, and rhetoric. I'm your host, Dan Z, drinking One Nation Coffee, the official coffee of Coffee with Kenobi, out of my brand new Run Disney Black Dark Side coffee mug from last weekend's races. It's really, really nice. Thank you so much for joining me today as we sit back and have some Star Wars conversation. On today's show, we have James Arnold Taylor and Cory Clubb discussing the Millennium Falcon traveling exhibit and the box office success of Infinity War and how that relates to Star Wars. In our interview segment, we're going to catch up with Jad and see what's going on in his world. And then Tom is not with us this week, so Cory and I will do the news, and then we will both stay on and reflect on 5 years of Coffee with Kenobi. It's actually on May 12th, but since we've got Cory on the show, we're going to get his take on everything. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some Coffee with Kenobi.
And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
I did an interview recently with CC Sabathia. He is a Cy Young winner, and he won the World Series with the Yankees, I believe, in 2009. And I was asked by Stars.com to interview him for May the 4th, because at Yankee Stadium, they're having a Star Wars Day. So he and I chatted on the phone, and it was really a really cool thing. This was amazing. I mean, obviously, I'm a Cubs fan, but to be able to interview someone of that stature, and I've admired CC Sabathia for a long time, so it was cool. And I got to tell you, he is the real deal. He's an actual hardcore Star Wars fan. He knows his stuff. He's also got a really cool podcast, too, called R2C2. Check it out. It's not family friendly by any means, but it's very entertaining. On our latest Patreon show that came out on Sunday, it's really superhero heavy. We've got discussion about Brian Michael Bendis and Superman, Spider-Man, and then original Star Wars comics. And of course, those shows come out every single Sunday. So be sure to subscribe to our Patreon page for $5 or more a month, and you'll get the weekly show. And by this point, you've got the 3 shows plus our Infinity War shows. You're talking about 4 shows for just $5.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first.
Joining us today for a cup of coffee is the co-creator and co-founder of Coffee with Kenobi, Mr. Cory Clubb.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Dan. Appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
You bet. You bet. Yeah, thanks for having me back. You have a constant invite, dude.
Yeah, I guess the door's always open, right?
It is always open. Yeah,
the light is on. It says on air, but does that mean I can come in or have to stay out?
Well, you still have to knock.
Knock, okay.
The secret code.
The secret knock, of course.
So Cory, this marks an actual year since I've been hosting the show with different co-hosts each week.
Yeah.
Does it seem like a year since you turned off the mic, so to speak?
You know, it's been interesting for sure. I know that the format's really been received really well. I think you're really taking off to new heights. You're doing all kinds of new things. And I'm along for the ride. I'm like I'm calling those backseat drivers. You know, it's been fun, and I think it's as a credit to you. I think because of all the things you have been able to do, taking the show to new heights and reformatting everything. Obviously, getting on new guests, having great interviews. I mean, I was just talking about you're being a Cy Young winner. I mean, that's just the type of stuff that comes through your path, and you are able to kind of mix it up and turn it into a great show. I think it's been a fantastic year. I think rolling forward, and definitely this year is a big one for us as Coffee with Kenobi creators. It's 5 years, and I looked at my calendar and I had like one of those Facebook memories, and I was like, man, 5 years. It seems so long ago. I mean, I feel as though it's been longer than that, honestly.
No, I know. I was talking with Deanna the other day, and she said, it's been 5 years? Yeah, she goes, wow, I can't believe that. It is pretty neat. We're going to talk about a lot more later in the show. But before we get to that, so after we recorded the last show last week, there was an announcement on the Star Wars show and on StarWars.com that there's going to be a Millennium Falcon experience. Now, deep breath, Stan, deep breath. When I saw this thing, oh my gosh. Okay, so I'll just read the press release for those of you who maybe haven't heard it or just need a refresher. It says, climb into the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon and buckle up, baby, referring to the new Solo trailer. A life-sized replica of the interior of the ship that made the Kessel Run is blasting off on tour to a city near you beginning this weekend. I'm going to repeat that part. A life-sized replica of the interior. Constructed inside 3 40-foot-long shipping containers, visitors can stop by Lando's Bar, sit at the famed Ajaric table, and finally get the chance to say punch it from inside the iconic cockpit. The finest details are crafted using the same molds used in Solo: A Star Wars Story. And here's where you can find the new Millennium Falcon experience. So the first one was last weekend, April 27th to 29th. It was at Northern Kentucky University. This weekend, May the 4th through the 6th, this is at Atlanta Braves Stadium. And then May 18th to 20th, it's Salt Lake City Megaplex 20 at Jordan Commons. And then on May 25th to the 27th, it's Denver Alamo Drafthouse Cinema at Littleton, Colorado. And they're free tickets. They're distributed on a first-come, first-served basis on Fridays at 10:30 a.m. I mean, seriously, I was ready to drive this weekend to Atlanta, which for me is about 9 hours. I was going to see who from my family wanted to go. And dude, this is the dream. I've always wanted to sit in the cockpit of the Falcon and just be in a replica. Or when I see images of like Leland Shee sitting in the cockpit or other notables from Lucasfilm, being on set for The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi, that's just the ultimate. Really, that's like the ultimate fantasy, Star Wars fantasy for me. And I always thought the Galaxy's Edge will fulfill that probably, and I'm sure that it will. But this is just something that, I mean, it needs to go to more than 4 cities. I don't know. What do you think? Yeah,
I was going to say, too, I was surprised at the lack of other areas that we'd be going to. I don't know if it's there's more that they might be announcing down the road as if this kind of thing takes off.
What do you think?
Dude, it's the dream come true, right? It's like when you're a kid, you're always, you are the one that's, driving in the car next to your parents or your brother or whoever and flipping the dials and doing the thing. And it's the essential, like, I don't know how you say it, like experience of imagination. You can't, I mean, it's life size too. That's the thing. It's not just a piece of the ship. I know that you and I have sat in the kind of the round, how you want to call it? The jar tables that we sat at for Celebration. We took some photos there, and that's just an inkling, right? That's just a little taste of what walking around the ship and just kind of replaying some of those scenes in your head.
That was made by the 501st and the Droid Builders in Anaheim, and it's super cool. In fact, I have the picture in front of my microphone right now, so I can see us sitting there with our Starbucks coffee. It was fun, but this is like they're taking the molds from the film. And they're taking that and building it so you can walk through. I mean, 3 40-foot shipping containers. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's legit, I think, for sure. And like you said, for free tickets, I mean, I would pay to go see this thing. That's the thing too. I'm surprised that it's a free exhibit. Obviously, to first come, first serve. But like, man, like you said, it's worth the trip to just experience it and have that dream come true and sit there, like I said, in the captain's chairs and take those iconic pictures and just live it out.
How far would you drive to go to see this thing? Because I'm going to be bugging you when it comes.
I know you are, man. Let's see, I'm willing to do like 7 or 8 hours. I mean, 10's probably pushing it for me. It's a long drive.
No, I know, because you'd have to get a hotel. I mean, you have to get a hotel for.
Well, that's the thing too. Yeah, if it's further away, you have to make overnight plans. But it's one of those things you can't. if you have the opportunity to do it, go do it, because it might not come back around. And like you said, you mentioned Galaxy's Edge, and I really think they'll do a stellar job there. Disney already kind of showing off some of the pre-production stuff they're doing for the land there, and I'm excited for that. And I think they'll have a similar experience. I don't know to what scale or exactly what kind of parts, but obviously they're looking to experience it in a way that is
in a whole new way.
A whole new way. That's right. So it's again. You see those photos. I remember the one they did for the very first solo, photo of the cast sitting in the cockpit, all kind of crammed in there, and kind of smiles and pictures. I think it looks fun. It's just like they even know it's like this is a blast. We're sitting in the seat of the Millennium Falcon, and it's iconic in its shape and its structure. It's the whole thing put together. I mean, can you imagine any other Star Wars vehicle that you'd rather not sit in and still experience? I mean, that's the one, right?
This is even cooler than sitting in the Batmobile to me. And
I agree with that. That's a good point.
And that's because the Batmobile has like 1,000 incarnations. Then this is the Falcon. True. Besides a radar dish and some locations of some cannons, it's the same ship.
Yeah, it's what it is. Yeah, exactly. It's
heaven. I mean, I was even more gung-ho about it a week ago when it first came out. This is fabulous. In fact, I almost thought I want to do a special show just to talk about this, but
yeah.
Obviously, that didn't happen. And one of the reasons is because of Infinity War. Now, I know this is not a comics podcast. I will say, and as I said at the top of the show, that if you are a member of our Patreon Coffee with Kenobi page for $5 or more a month, Tom and I did a review of Infinity War right after we saw it. It was very weird, Cory, because we're so used to going into the theater together and seeing one of these epic films and then recording our thoughts. This was the first time that I did this for a movie that wasn't Star Wars, and B, that I did it when you weren't there. So your presence was definitely missed, but it was fun. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because Infinity War, it has now, after the first weekend, and then, of course, everyone knows this, it had the biggest ever opening of all time. It had a 258.2 million opening, and The Force Awakens had 248. So originally they thought it was just going to win by 2 million, but it actually won by 10 million. That's pretty intense. Yeah.
It's interesting too. I mean, I actually happened to come across, we went and saw it earlier yesterday with my boys, and had a blast. It was a lot of fun. And I got online. I was able to go online. I was kind of staying offline for a minute just so I wouldn't spoil it for myself. But then I could go on, read the reviews, and then of course I follow Star Wars and Lucasfilm, and they come across my feed, and they've got the note there that's the Rey's handing off the lightsaber to Iron Man.
Yeah, no, that's the gauntlet.
The gauntlet. No, was it Iron Man's hand?
No, that's Thanos.
Oh, was it? Okay, I'll have to go back and look at that then.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. So that's the other thing too. I was like, that's a classy move. And then somebody had posted like all the past kind of acknowledgments between George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and them just kind of like obviously like patting each other on the back. Congratulations, we're thrilled for you. And it's a classy move, I think, on Kathleen Kennedy's part and Lucasfilm, and them just saying, hey, you know what? Kudos to you guys. We'll get you next time, type thing. I think it's so much fun to see respect in such a high intensity industry, and people looking to, get butts in chairs. I mean, and make a great story and show a great film. And obviously I respect that too. I think that's a good move for them to be able to honor each other, even though they're in kind of the same house.
I mean,
it is traditional.
When there's that great image of when Star Wars beat Jaws, and then Star Wars was eclipsed later by E.T. There are always these cool posters or images that they do to say congratulations to the other studio to show, hey, we're a brotherhood. This is, there's no hard feelings. It's not competitive. Of course, it's competitive. It's a financial industry, but there's also respect there. Now, let's talk about respect. I do not think that because Infinity War had a better opening than The Force Awakens, that the world is going to end. I don't think it's a big deal. It doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from my enjoyment of The Force Awakens at all. I thought Infinity War was tremendous. And when you're taking 18 films over a 10-year period, and this is the 19th film, I believe my math is better than that. And it's the culmination of 10 years of stories building to this moment. I mean, the Infinity Stones, have been referenced or a part of most of these movies in some way, shape, or form. And there's actually all kinds of cool articles like on IGN and things that show you where the stones have turned up. And this won't be a review show, but again, it doesn't take away from The Force Awakens. I think The Force Awakens is a wonderful movie, one of my favorites ever. This doesn't tarnish The Force Awakens in any way. And it's still the number one grossing film in the United States of all time. And I believe it's second worldwide. And even if Infinity War beats that, which I don't think it will. And the reason I don't think it will is because that was open in Christmas time. There was no competition. This is summer. In a couple of weeks, we're going to have Solo.
Right.
We're going to have Incredibles 2.
Yep.
The Jurassic World sequel. There's going to be all kinds of movies coming out. So I feel like it's going to have more competition. So it'll probably fizzle out a little bit quicker. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, it's a powerhouse of a movie.
And then this is the thing, too. I mean, it's to debate the fact that, it's a better movie because it earns more. I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, it's haggling apples to oranges in a sense of, this one tastes better and this one didn't, and to each their own for whatever taste it may be. But the film industry is a medium in sorts. And like you said, it's all about the fluctuation of moviegoers, the season, the time. It plays, there's a marketability type things. Marvel had a lot going in, I think, but Star Wars has such a long range. I mean, let's think about it this way. Avengers and Marvel films themselves maybe not would have done so well if it hadn't been for Star Wars itself, incarnation, a long time ago, galaxy far away. But like, obviously it's playing off each other. It's the pop culture of what we live in. So it's not the dollars ratio to better filmmaking. It's coming down to the fact that these two icons, these two powerhouses, are doing well, obviously. So again, that's the thing. We talk about the classy move, like to say, hey, you guys got us. I mean, you did a great weekend. Congratulations. Kudos to you in the future, type thing. It's the thing that's saying, we're not counting our stacks of money, but we are, looking to do bigger and better things next time. And you've kind of pushed us to do better. So, obviously they knew what they're up against. I think Marvel did with Infinity War. They're up against a lot of other franchises, a lot of things going on this summer. There's all kinds of things in the running, but, I liked it too. It's a small haggle to fight, I guess, online to be able to say one was better than the other. And I think it's just you're wasting your words. So I don't know. Go back and see it again. Go back and see all the films again.
Yes, absolutely. So let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to catch up with James Arnold Taylor. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Coffee with Kenobi. Oh, pass the cream, would you?
Let's talk a little bit of our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page. Such an important aspect of what we do on the show, and so many amazing things are happening with the program. And none of it is possible without people like Ben Elkington, Terry Lee, Dennis Keithley, Christo Hayden, Aaron Harris, Angela Sauce, Mediocre Jedi, Thea Selby, Jeff Ellis, Dex's Diner, Daz Davies, Tyler Wiggins, Christian Dale, Jason Hall, Brian McKinney, Connie Shee, Mike Audette, Jared Cantor, BJ Smith, Eric Struthers, Nick Deco, and Mark Suter. And you may notice that there are quite a few more names than there have been over the past few weeks. And that's because I think of our brand new Patreon show that we've been doing. Basically, for $5 or more a month, you get access to a weekly show that comes out every Sunday with myself, co-founder of Coffee with Kenobi, Cory Clubb, and CWK newsman Tom Gross. The three of us get together. We talk about Star Wars. We talk about comics. We talked about Infinity War. In fact, we did a review show of it. We talk about all kinds of things that are in geek culture that we're excited about or that interest us. This is completely unscripted. In fact, I just put out a couple bullet points. We all do, and we just said, hey, what do we want to talk about this week? And we don't really stick to it. It's just kind of more of a, in case you run out of things to say, here's where you could go. But that hasn't really happened yet. We've had a ton of fun. And the great thing is, because we've had 3 shows out so far, and we've got the Infinity War podcast, you've got 4 podcasts you can hear right away. They're about a half hour each, and it's only for $5 a month. I mean, that's great. So as the show continues to grow, And as we continue to find more things to talk about, you're going to have more and more access to our back catalog of our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon shows. Again, just $5 or more a month. But that's not all that you have with Patreon. If you contribute $1 more a month, you get Lens, which is our behind-the-scenes look at Coffee with Kenobi. It's videos, it's photos, it's stuff done in my office on different road trips that I have for the Star Wars universe and for Coffee with Kenobi and all those kind of good things. Different things that we see, different immediate reactions to things like our quick reactions to Star Wars Resistance, the animated show. Lots of great stuff. And then, I guess when you want to know what it's like, if you haven't seen a Lens yet, Lens is like Snapchat or Insta Story, but it's just for Coffee with Kenobi Patreon members. And that's just for $1. But for $10 or more a month, you get access to our Discord page, and you get to talk basically on a message board to all of us, and I try to check that pretty regularly. You can also get things like coffee mugs, T-shirts, maybe even both, depending on what you contribute. And then also, if you contribute a certain amount, you can host the show with me 4 times 1 month. Pretty cool stuff. So please check out the show notes or our webpage for more details. There's a red Patreon button at the top. So much fun. We talked about all the things we're interested in besides just Star Wars. We talk a lot about Spider-Man, actually, and what kind of brought us to that character. We talk a little bit about Infinity War in this one. And we talk about Star Wars comics, both past and present, and sort of different arcs that we're looking at there. Experience the age-old nostalgia of Star Wars card collecting with the bonus of instant digital gratification. Your very own virtual hobby shop, all on your mobile device. Download Star Wars Card Trader now. One Nation Coffee is the official brew of Coffee with Kenobi, and let me tell you, it is awesome stuff. 4 lifelong friends had this idea. They grew into some of the best coffee you're ever going to have. Smells amazing and tastes even better. Check out www.onenationcoffee.com to get your morning started off the right way. One Nation Coffee seeks to support traditional American values upheld by members of the active duty military, veterans, and first responders. In fact, they are owned by veterans and members of law enforcement as well. Be sure to go to www.onenationcoffee.com to order the official brew of Coffee with Kenobi today. We are back, and it is coffee chat time, and this is absolutely perfect because next week on the 12th will be the 5th year anniversary of the show. The highlight for me running Coffee with Kenobi has always been the very first time we got to talk with this man who's on with us, James Arnold Taylor. James, welcome back to Coffee with Kenobi.
Well, thanks so much. It is so great to be on with you guys. I'm sorry, I'm lo-fiing my technology here on the telephone, but but I'm here.
And it's great to have you. Of course, a year ago is when I started this brand new format, when I always have 2 different co-hosts. And the first show we did with this is we had Cory come out of retirement and join me again, and then of course James. And so we've got the dream team back together again. And James, what have you been up to these days?
Oh my goodness. Well, I've been working on lots of different things, and some with some Clone Wars alumni, Catherine Tabor specifically. But I actually just wrote a film, and we are going to be shooting it this summer, live action. And Catherine will be the star of it, along with another good friend of mine that is a well-known celebrity. Although I'm not going to give that away just yet. The other person, but it's not. That one is not a Star Wars person, but somebody else that I know very well.
Oh, awesome! Well, the product you're talking about with Cat Tabor, you guys did an audiobook together, and the topic of this is something that's very near and dear to my heart because I very much believe spiritually in the same things that you and Cory do as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Oh yeah, sure. The book that we did, that was totally different. That was called The Story of With, and it was my good friend Alan Arnold. And Alan works at a place called Ransom Heart, and that is John Eldridge. And if your listeners know John Eldridge, he wrote, of course, Wild at Heart and all these wonderful books. He's really one of my favorite authors. And Alan is one of the folks in charge over there at Ransomed Heart, and he's on the podcast and stuff, and he is a writer himself, and he wrote a fantastic book, and it is an allegory. And so he called me one day and said, I need a really strong female voice to read the protagonist in this audiobook. Do you know know of anybody? And I said, well, I absolutely do, of course. Catherine Tabor, she's perfect, and she does tons of audiobooks. So the three of us got together and did this. And so I read the parts that are more of the, the regular parts of the book that are not part of the story, and Catherine, or Kat, reads the story, and she does a great job with it. So that's a really fun adventure because it is about finding your dreams. And you guys know me, and I'm always about pursuing your dreams, and it's kind of a guide. It's really, if anybody likes my book, you would love this book because it's actual hands-on as to how you achieve those dreams and go after them and such. And so I really recommend everybody check out the audiobook if they want to hear Kat and I reading along, and it's called The Story of With by Alan Arnold.
Yeah, see, that topic alone is it's great. And allegories are so awesome because they're able to teach you a lesson, and they're very, very specific in the direction they're trying to lead the reader. And it's very powerful. And your comparison to your book is very astute because they're both inspirational and they both have like a personality that is genuine behind them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. That's nice. Good company there. Yeah. Alan is really all about finding your own identity and finding your story. And I think that is something certainly for Star Wars fans, certainly appropriate for your podcast, because I think all of us love stories. We love being caught up in adventures and things. But I don't think everybody thinks of their own life as a story. And it's really important to do that, to really feel like this is a journey, and this is my life, and this is my story, and here's what's happening, and here are the players, and here's the adventure of it. And so it encourages you in his book to find that story within you.
That's great. I think it's, like you said, it's one of those things that's a great collaboration and a wonderful thing to be able to put it into the readers' hands and folks who are looking to take it by audiobook even. I know I listen to audiobooks driving to work myself, and in doing so, it just helps me kind of get from point A to point B. And I think obviously you voicing things, Kat voicing some things, and it'll be familiar to Star Wars fans hearing your voice, obviously, but in a new way. I think it brings it really an interesting aspect to it, that you're kind of broadening the horizons of readers' minds and listeners' minds, and be able to let them think through new things.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think so. And it really is, like I say, it's so important to kind of discover those parts within yourself. It really helps you on a daily basis then. And so it's exciting. And it was fun to do that. And it was a precursor to this film then that Kat and I are going to be working on and putting together. I wrote it. I'm going to direct it. I won't actually be in it, but I will edit it and produce it and put it all out. And it's a faith-based film, and it is it's basically a parable of the prodigal son. And so it's something I've had kicking around in my heart for a long time, and so it should be a lot of fun to shoot. We're going to start production on it in the next couple of weeks, and so we're looking forward to that.
That's great.
This is cool. Yeah,
I think it's so cool to see you in that capacity too, James, in the director's chair, obviously doing a lot of editing and stuff. How is that for you to kind of maybe be in that role, other than voice actor and actor itself? As far as is it harder to make that transition, or how does that feel for you?
That's a great question. It is different. But it's also because I've done so many things on my own, with my own stage show, Obi-Wan and Beyond, or Talking to Myself, whichever it was, or when I would host the events at Star Wars Weekends or Celebration, or doing the stuff on my YouTube channel, like Clone Wars Conversations and things. It always relates back to Star Wars in some way, doesn't it? It's really prepared the way for me to do this. And so I guess I've seen that I've been directing and writing and producing these things all along, but it's just now kind of taking it into a new space, and hopefully give people something to really encourage them to watch in live action as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm very excited about this. I really am. And The Prodigal Son, of course, is a very, very powerful story. And what I like about that story, of course, is you can take it from the perspective of the brother that is embittered and has been with his father the entire time, or you can look at it from the perspective of the son that has left the home and spent all of his father's money inheritance and comes back and the father forgives him. And I love when people hear it because you can really look at it in two different ways, can't you?
Yeah. Well, and even 3, you can even look at the part of the father.
Yeah.
And as we get older, and certainly as I get older, I go, that's actually who I want to be. I've been the prodigal. I've been the older son. And now I would like to try to be that father that is loving and forgiving and accepting no matter what the circumstance of life to everyone. And so I think that that's kind of the trick here with it is wrapping all of those stories up and making it to where each person can relate to somebody in it.
For sure. Now let's switch gears a little bit. You obviously are a man of many voices and many talents, and is clearly by this conversation that is emphasizing that as well. But every time when I listen to you speak or when you've been on the show, I think of the first time that you sent something over for us, and you went through sort of the pantheon of some of your greatest hits, and the fact that you voiced Fred Flintstone, like I can't even tell you what that does to my heart. I just think that is, it's just mind blowing. It's just wonderful. How is that for you to voice these iconic characters? I'm sure you've answered this a million times, but.
No, you know what? I don't know if I've been asked specifically that question that often. People always ask what my favorite voice to do is, but I don't know if anybody really has asked me what it's like to do them. So good on you. That is good.
Oh, thank you.
It's actually pretty amazing because I grew up watching the Flintstones. My older sister loved the Flintstones, and so when I got to call her and tell her I was going to be Fred, it was kind of just awesome. But I wake up sometimes and pinch myself thinking that I've been able to be a part of all of these things. I'm doing my stage show, Talking to Myself. I'm going to be doing it in London at the end of this month.
Wow.
And and I'm really excited because it's the first time I will be doing this show in the UK. Well, I did it in Ireland. I don't know, but not in London, not in England, and so it's very exciting to do that. But in that, I'm looking at all these clips again and rehearsing the show and looking at it all, and I do sometimes step back and go, "Wow, I got to be those characters." It's one of those things where I think a lot of times I'll look at interviews or things that I do, and I go, I don't want to come off like I'm bragging, because what it is I'm actually really excited. Like, I'm as excited as everybody else that I get to do these voices. So it's fun.
There's so like in the Hanna-Barbera wheelhouse, of course, there's a lot of iconic characters there. And I was trying to describe to my little boy who's 4 that they used to have a cartoon series where they were all like competing in a race, and you had like one team that was sort of like the more realistic human characters. And what was that called? And one was like
that was the Wacky Racers.
Yeah, I love that.
And believe it or not, they did a reboot of it back in the early 2000s, and I was supposed to play the lead, and then it didn't get picked up. It was me and Jim Cummings.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was going to be a lot of fun, and for some reason, I guess it just didn't go. It didn't take off the way that it should have. But the Wacky Racers, what a fun thing that was.
And there were different teams. I think there were 3 different teams that were
right.
Yeah, so fun. What do you think about the Solo trailer? Now, how do you feel about this upcoming Star Wars film?
Well, it's. I've been very blessed, very fortunate to do voices in each of these movies that have, come out, all these new Star Wars films. So it's still kind of hard for me to step outside of that, So I don't know what to make of all of it as a Star Wars fan, but as an actor, I'm very grateful for the opportunities to provide a voice in it and be a part of that still and such. So, so we'll have to see with Solo. I don't know. I don't know how much I want to know the story of Han Solo before A New Hope, quite frankly. But I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying, I don't know. I guess because what it really is I'm such a Harrison Ford fan, And I kind of don't know if I can see anybody else playing that role, because the reason why we all love Han Solo is because of Harrison Ford's performance. And, I think the reason why you may love Obi-Wan Kenobi is because he's a character full of wisdom and guidance and all that. And there's been some wonderful actors that have played him. And then I've been very fortunate to be in that as well. But I think you can go like, oh, Obi-Wan Kenobi is this kind of character. Yoda is this character. He's this thing. But Han and Luke and Leia, they are them, and it's really hard to think of anybody else portraying those characters. So I don't know. It's just it's a different thing. We'll have to see. I'm curious to see how it's going to do and how people will like it and such. How about you guys? Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of my reservations as well, James, is the fact that it's such an iconic character. And you always think back to other, Star Wars pirates and space pirates and whatnot, and you think of Han Solo as being the mold, and kind of coming off of that. And it's hard to kind of realize someone else in that role. But I think you mentioned yourself doing Obi-Wan, and I think you've done a stellar job of making it your own as well. I mean, I think Ian McGregor was obviously on film doing it live action. You were doing in animated series form. But I think, is there any tips that you would give to
Alden Ehrenreich
actors? Yeah. Well, I don't want to come out and say it, but obviously there's an age divide, right? I mean, you've done characters who have aged. Obi-Wan himself, who's gotten younger to older, and is there a way to kind of capture that age difference too? I mean, obviously, like you said, the Han we see here is a younger Han. He's not necessarily the one we see in New Hope.
And Hamilton,
to see how you take that. Yeah, Hamilton. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Well, you know what? I think the other thing is that we had the benefit with Clone Wars of a series. So over 100 episodes of getting to explore that character and getting to weekly come into people's homes and say, here's our take on it. So that's the biggest difference, that, he's got 90 minutes to 2 hours to get everybody to like him and to embody that character. And so I think it's tricky. I think he's taken, his own spin on it too, which is what most actors would do. It's just like with James Bond. I'm not gonna do what, Roger Moore did or Sean Connery. I'm gonna do my own thing. And, so I think as an actor, you have to do that and take that chance. But it really is, it's just strange, because if you were to, time travel all three of us back to when we were kids and tell us that this was going to be what was going on with Star Wars, I think we'd go, first off, I don't believe it. And second, what, are you kidding me? So it's very strange to think of other people in those roles.
I think that's why people had such a hard time with The Last Jedi, and that beautiful scene where Carrie Fisher, you and I can't stop myself, when Princess Leia is in space and they play the gorgeous Leia's theme, and she of course pulls herself back into the Lattes, and my goodness, I absolutely adore that scene from the first moment I saw it, because there's precedence for it in the books and things like that. But I think for people, it's sort of like, I know Carrie Fisher is no longer with us. This would have been a good way to do it. Now the fact that she's the only hero of the big three that's alive, but in reality she's the only actress that isn't with us. It's an interesting challenge.
Boy, yeah, isn't that just, I did voices in The Last Jedi, and we were in the studio, and they actually finished quite early before it came out. And we finished in the summer, I think, of last year, and then the film came out. And again, Carrie had already passed, obviously, and I remember they were showing us that scene where she gets sucked out of the ship and everything, and our hearts just sank, It's just like, and then they showed us that part of her coming back, and this is a room full of actors. They're providing voices for the film. And everybody's cheering, and people are crying, and it was, it was really pretty wild. And it's, and it's tough because, again, here we saw all that months before the world saw it, and then you have to kind of hold that. So you always have to hold your tongue when you're an actor in the world of Star Wars. So it's tricky. It's tricky for me to give my opinion on any of it. It really is.
Oh no, for sure, absolutely. Yeah, this is a wonderful time to be a Star Wars fan, as we always say, and I'm looking forward to Solo. I want, because Ehrenreich is a good actor. I know he's going to do it, and I agree with you, James. Ford is really what drew us to Solo, and you and I are similar in that our favorite films is Raiders of the Lost Ark. So I think if and when they redo something with Indy and he's suddenly a different actor, I think that's going to be much harder for me than Solo being a different actor.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, but I read something today that they're talking about, like the next one after the fifth one is possibly going to be a woman or something, and I just thought, wow, that's nothing against any woman playing it. It's just those are big shoes to fill, and I think just create a different character maybe. But
I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, just like when the comics, when Thor was suddenly female, why does she have to be Thor? Why can't she stand on her own as her own powerful character? Because I think that's while I think the purpose is equality, I think it actually sort of is the opposite, because these characters are strong enough on their own, and create a new character that's equally strong or stronger.
Yeah. There's just so much of that where we want to see what we're going to do with something old. It's like, no, something new. Give us something new, So, I don't know. I'll be really curious to see how it does. Certainly, it's going to have a hard time after this Avengers movie has come out and broken all these records. But I imagine it'll still do very, very well. And I think people are very excited about Lando being in it and all of that too. So, it's learning some backstory.
I agree. So we'll go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to talk with James and Cory about Star Wars Resistance. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
Greetings. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Classic Tops meets the digital age. Relive your childhood with daily releases of your favorite Star Wars characters, moments, and more from 1977 to the upcoming Solo, A Star Wars Story. Download Star Wars Card Trader free now. Harry's Racers, Cory, this is a product we've been talking about for a couple of months, and you've got a little bit of experience with Harry's too, don't you?
I do. Although I'm a bearded fellow, a Wookiee, if you will.
Yes, I will.
I don't shave every day. But I do use their face scrub. I've got like this minty face scrub I use in my actual beard. It's a kind of not really a beard softener, but it's a face scrub. I can rub all over my face and get all minty fresh. Very kissable. So if you're out there looking for that kind of provocativeness, they sell a lot of other products too. So it's not just razors and shaving faces and whatnot. If you are Harry, just like me, take charge and go out and get some Harrys, right? Harry.
That's right. How many times are you going to say the word Harry? A lot.
Harry?
Yes. No, that's a pretty good endorsement, because Harry's does do a lot more than that. And what I love about Harry's, as I've said many times, it does have a nice close shave. The fragrance, and I'm assuming it's similar to what you're talking about, Cory, but the cream that they send is awesome. It smells terrific, and my wife loves it. It's just kind of like a good refreshing thing in the morning, you know what I mean? Yeah. And Harry's is awesome, as you know. They stand behind the quality of their blades, and they also know that switching razors isn't an easy decision. So basically what they've done is create a trial offer that you should try, and it's claim your offers by – all you have to do is claim yours by going to harrys.com/CWK family. As you know, Harry's founders were fed up with overpaying for expensive razors with unnecessary features, because they know a great shave comes down to great blades, obviously. They need to be sharp, durable steel that lasts. That's why they bought a factory that's been making some of the highest quality blades in the world for over 95 years, which is a really long time. Yeah. So you sell directly over the internet, and Harry's can offer their blades at a price much lower than a leading brand. And dude, it's $2 a blade compared to $4 or more. And there's a quality guarantee as well. If you don't love your shave, you just let Harry's know, and within 30 days, they'll give you a full refund. Now, here are the details of the trial offer. So write this down, dude.
Yeah, I got pen ready. Go.
You got it ready? Okay.
Yep.
So it's a $13 value that you're going to get with the trial set that comes with everything you need for a close, comfortable shave. A weighted ergonomic handle, a 5-blade razor with a lubricating strip and trimmer blade, Rich Lathering Shave Gel, which usually takes me about 10 times to say that. Travel Blade Cover is also the last one. Now, listeners of my show can redeem their trial set at harrys.com/CWK Family. Make sure you go to harrys.com/CWK Family to redeem your offer and let them know I sent you to help support the show. We're back, and real quick, we normally cover quite a few news stories, but Cory and I at the top of the show talked about that amazing Millennium Falcon experience that's traveling around the country, and we talked about, as James said at the end of our last segment, Infinity War and what that's done to the box office and how it's okay to have a movie eclipse The Force Awakens and the world will still spin, and that's a good thing. But now we've got a brand new thing, Star Wars Resistance, and it's a new series. It's going to take place before The Force Awakens, and to me, there's two things that I'm sort of juggling. One is the fact that Dave Filoni is behind it, so that guy is basically the best thing to happen to Star Wars besides George Lucas, in my opinion. I mean, it's so much as he's done and how much he's brought into the fold. But I'm not really an anime person. Now, I'm not going to judge something before I see it, but James, what do you think about this? I mean, you are like as steeped in animation and Star Wars as anyone has ever been. What do you think about this?
I think it'll be interesting to see what they're going to do with it. I've known about it for several years because I'd been auditioning for different parts of it for quite a while, but I didn't know what they were going to call it. I didn't know what the style of animation would be or anything, and I was as hit with the information as everybody else was just this last week. But I'm certain that Dave will add what Dave adds to every project he's involved with in the world of Star Wars, and that is extra excitement and energy and that kind of excitement to want to see the next episode. So I'm sure they'll do wonderful things with it, but I don't know exactly how that's going to play. I think it is tricky after, I'd be honest, I'm quite biased. The animation of Clone Wars was really the best animation that I've seen for the world of Star Wars, especially by the fourth and fifth and sixth seasons. We really just had some beautiful stuff going on there, and I was a much bigger fan of that animation than I was with Rebels. And with this, if it's going to be anime, I don't know if that means it's going to be 2D and not computer generated then. And
right.
There's a lot of questions that goes along with that. But as long as it tells the story of Star Wars properly, I'm excited that they would explore something just before The Force Awakens and maybe tell us more of that storyline, because I feel like, in my perfect world, I've probably mentioned this to you guys before, but that's what Disney would have done, is they would have let Clone Wars go all 8 seasons.
Yes.
And finish it right as Force Awakens comes out, and then that summer release something like this that they're releasing now. And that would have been my wish. So, I guess it's good. It's coming true in a later date, I guess. But so there you go. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with it.
I wish that as well. I mean, my goodness, that series, and I'm getting ready to show my son Clone Wars. I can't wait to tell him that James Arnold Taylor is my friend, that Obi-Wan Kenobi is my friend. He's so excited. That's the coolest. But I agree with you. That was a series that was so beloved, and it seems like as time has gone on, it's not that they're not avoiding the prequels, but they're just more focused on. I think they started with the original trilogy timeline because they wanted to get back the older fans who were so ho-hum about the prequels, right? And then, of course, the Force Awakens and Last Jedi, and that kind of, brings everything back to the fold and all this kind of stuff. But Clone Wars has some of the very best storytelling in all of Star Wars. And you're right, James. Of course, that animation, especially in the last couple of seasons, it's just the peak of Star Wars entertainment.
Yeah, it is amazing. Here we are coming up on 10 years, the 10-year anniversary of the film, and then the first season, and looking back on all of it. And I have this show I do on my YouTube channel called Clone Wars Conversations, where I interview my castmates, and I'm about to air the last 2 episodes of this season, and they're actually with just me. I had my friend Amy Ratcliffe, who is a writer for StarWars.com. She came in and interviewed me so I could tell my stories this time. And just looking back on all of it, it's just kind of amazing how it's more beloved now, it seems, than even then. Fans have been so gracious to us all and so loving of it, and still rooting for it, to come back in some way. So, it's the show that won't go away.
Let's take our next break, and we'll come back and talk with Cory a little bit more about 5 years of Coffee with Kenobi. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
Coffee, tea, or me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's Coffee with Kenobi.
Star Wars fans, Han Solo cards have arrived in Star Wars Card Trader by Topps. Download free for your very own virtual hobby shop featuring exclusive content for the upcoming Solo, A Star Wars Story. Available in the App Store or Google Play. Coffee with Kenobi was sponsored by One Nation Coffee, the official brew of Coffee with Kenobi. 4 lifelong friends had this idea that grew into some of the best coffee you will ever have. It smells amazing and tastes even better. Please check out www.onenationcoffee.com to get your morning started off the right way and to learn more about them and how they seek to support traditional American values upheld by members of the active duty military, veterans, and first responders. In fact, they are actually owned by veterans and members of law enforcement. Be sure to go to www.onenationcoffee.com to order the official brew of Coffee with Kenobi today. Let's do our coffee chat now. And Cory, what an amazing conversation with James Arnold Taylor, and he'll come in at the end of the show again, of course, but he represents, to me, everything that has happened on Coffee with Kenobi the past 5 years. And I know that for the past year, you've been a very popular guest co-host, but as I say all the time, you and I still talk as much as we ever have, and you've been on a lot of adventures with me. We had that great Denny's Facebook Live thing with the cards, the solo cards and stuff. But I want to catch up with you and I know we've already sort of reflected on what Coffee with Kenobi means to us. But what do you think, man? It's been a crazy ride.
It truly has, and like you said, we talk about just different aspects of kind of how Star Wars grows and our fandom grows and changes, and just things you get invited to, or opportunities that arise. And obviously, it's like we talked about earlier, was like it's been a year since you've been kind of doing this new format, and how that's changed things, and just grown us both as individuals, as professionals. I've had opportunities to talk to, actually in my career, it's been growing me as a professional in stuff that I do, software design.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot of venues and whatnot. So it's not necessarily been 5 years of like, oh, it's podcast, cool. You have fun with Star Wars. It's legitimately been
kind of a way of life.
Yeah. It's not like it's it's a thing we do on the side. It's like it's integrated into our daily lives. I think you need even just like answering an email or getting an email from somebody, a fan, or just a Lucasfilm news release or something like that. It's exciting. It's fun. It's never been like oh, here we go again. This will be something else. It's always been, oh, this is awesome. This is so wonderful. We always say it's great to be a Star Wars fan. We said that from show one, really. I mean, it's abundant in a way to reflect and see how growing ourselves through a podcast, and we fumbled those first few shows. I think back to that. A friend of mine at work said he was listening to it, and he said, I started with show one. I'm going to go through them all. I'm like, okay, well, that show one's pretty rough, So it's fun to see us grow, and even grow further now that we've been doing it for 5 years, and our separate kind of counterparts and doing such things. It's much fun too. I mean, and then obviously bringing more people into the fold. Obviously, our other shows. Tom coming in and doing the news, and he's a local guy that hangs out with us all the time too. Obviously, it's like we always say it's our Coffee with Kenobi family, right? And it truly is. I mean, we say it that way, but that's just marketing, folks. It's true. It's around. I can text these folks that have their podcasts with us. I can text other podcasters that have our Star Wars shows, and they will respond, and we can talk, have a conversation, or and it's not just like, hey, did you see the new solo release, or did you see, this new movie? It's, hey man, hope you're having a great day, or hey, I saw your post and I want to encourage you on something. It's really growing a family rather than a podcast. So it's been very kind of a love of that way.
Yeah, it has. And special things have happened, and people connect with not only the show, but just sort of like the thesis of the show. The attitude has always been, we want people to feel like they're with their friends.
Yep.
Talking about Star Wars, and you laugh, you think, and you're having a cup of coffee together. Even if you don't drink coffee, you're just, it's those conversations you have. I mean, I want to give a special shout out to Matthew Scott, who sent us a message on our Coffee with Kenobi Facebook page. And he actually sent us a Coffee with Kenobi mug, which he was kind enough to purchase. And he sent it to me, and he wants you and I to sign it. And Matthew, we didn't forget about you. I have it right here. I just have to see Cory so he can sign it, because even though we live in the same town, we don't see each other a ton as far as face to face.
That works.
Yeah, isn't that weird? So we are definitely efforting that, my friend, and we will get that to you ASAP.
Well, that's the other thing too. It's not just growing our family and our podcast and doing wonderful, fun things. We've had a lot of folks write in and say, hey, you guys have inspired us to do our own podcast, or how do you do this podcasting thing? We've had folks read reviews about iTunes. Hey, I enjoyed listening to you guys as I was trying to lose weight, or just go through a hard part of my life, or just trying to rear my children, or be able to just do certain things in life. And we've been there to just fill the gap, fill the quiet space. And that's something that I never even thought of. I hadn't even begun to think, like, how this will impact other people. I just talk about Star Wars. What's the big deal, But it almost knocks me down sometimes in a good way. That's like, wow, I didn't see that coming. Like the guy who wants me to sign his mug. What's the deal? But like, I think that's fun. It's unique. It's something, that he wants to do for his own fandom, and it's fun. I think, be able to interact with even fans online and stuff, and just have a good time. I think that's what fandoms are. It's sometimes you can get the wrong aspect of what a fandom is, and it's like a group of people that just go around and I don't know, just march around for something they love. But it's fandom for Star Wars is different, I guess, in my eyes, because I think it's something that's holds true in our own hearts. It's almost like everybody wants these time machines, but fandom is for us as a time machine to go back to our roots as a child and growing up with Star Wars, or how we were introduced for Star Wars, and reliving that through our friends, our family, our loved ones, and that's what it does for us. I think for our podcast.
So over 5 years of the show, we talked when you had your last show right before Celebration Orlando, but what are some things that when you look back on, or even over the past year, is there anything you would have done differently, or do you wish there was something we would have done differently, or what? Yeah, anything like that.
Yeah. So looking back, there's really nothing that there's nothing I would change. Me
either.
I don't think. Maybe
I'm glad you left. Just kidding. I'm not glad you left.
Obviously there's things that you're doing that I'm not doing. Let's put it out there, right? You've had opportunities that you've texted me and said, hey man, I'm doing this thing, and are you good with this? Is this cool? And oh yeah, I'm always excited for you. I think I want to come across as a encouragement rather than a hindrance. I don't want to.
No, dude, you're like one of the most rare people I've ever met. And I've had very blessed. I've had a lot of great people in my life, and I think I always will, because I believe that the way you treat people is what enters into your life as well. It's only because I've been fortunate because of working with you and you helping to just sort of establish the show with me and helping to kind of promote this brand and just make it something more than we ever dreamed. And you've never once been anything other than supportive.
You've had obviously plenty of opportunities. I've had plenty of opportunities to do fun things, and we've had to kind of pick and choose once in a while, I think, but we always bounce that off each other. I always feel like we've always kind of come to a consensus of,
and even now.
Yeah. Well, even now, like
I'll just say, hey, this is what's going on. And exactly. I like telling you first. Well, I tell my wife first, but then I tell you.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Let's appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, that's the other thing too. It's like, it's the celebration together too. It's the fact that we're both like, it's not just like, hey, I get to do this thing, or, whatever the case may be, but it's the aspect of, I'm doing something cool and you help me get there and you're encouraging me. And yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, there's been times where I've been jealous of what things you do, but because you've worked hard to get there though. I mean, we took different separate roads, and that was about a year ago where I was taking a back seat, turned the mic down a little bit, and you were turning the mic up. And that's just the way you felt led. And I think that's great. I think it's led to some great successes and do some wonderful things and still do wonderful things. And you've always given back though. I feel like you never really held it on to yourself. You're like, hey, I'm going to do this thing without you, or I'm going to pursue this and just be this my own thing. You've always reached out to other folks, obviously other podcasters, other friends of the show and listeners even. I mean, like it's always, your generous nature has always been pleasing. I think it's a matter of what drives the show, really. I mean, I think it's something that we've always talked about, is giving a voice to fandom, and we're included in that. I think we're the fandom too, and being able to just do that. I mean, and continue to do that. Like you said, it's not going to stop. It's going to continue. And I'm excited for the next, 50 years, if that's the case, so it's, and things might change. Who knows? Maybe I'll turn that mic back on, folks. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but, that's just the way things go. I think it's exciting to see where it goes and hope for the best.
No, well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really sincerely do. The most important thing for me is always to promote other people. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you have to, obviously share what you're doing, because that's part of it, because then more people will listen. And when more people listen, then other people get a voice, because you can help encourage other people and be encouraged by other people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I still feel as hungry now as I did when we did our first show. Like I am so fired up for Coffee with Kenobi and for being a voice in fandom. And I'm constantly, one of my highlights every day is hearing from each of you and your emails and your texts and your Facebook messages and your tweets and everything else. It just gets me really fired up. But Star Wars fandom gets a lot of slack for being negative and caustic and all this kind of stuff. I've never really experienced that. I mean, honestly, in 5 years, as many different people as I've been fortunate enough to speak with and different topics that we've covered in different places you can find us, I really don't run into that very much. Now, I made no secret of the fact that I'm not shy about using the mute button. So let's be realistic here. If you surround yourself with people that are positive, that's what you will get. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's pretty much my experience with my Coffee with Kenobi family. And I thank you all so much. Yeah. None of this would have happened without Cory and I becoming friends and getting some coffee together, and having, of course, common interests is pretty essential in a co-host. But you've over the past year, I still bounce ideas off of you. You're still the first person to know whenever I've got something going on that's going to be slowly revealed. In fact, we have something that we're sitting on now that's pretty exciting. That will be slowly revealed. Something really exciting, which is coming out very, very soon. I can't wait to share that with each of you. But you, behind the scenes over the past year, you've been great. And I appreciate that. And I know whenever I ask you to come on, you're always going to come on and add your voice. And I prepare for each show, but when you're going to be on, I really don't prepare as much as I typically do, because I just know. Geez. Well, no, I don't need to.
No, I'm kidding.
Sure. You and I have got 4 years of working together, and plus it's just a good opportunity to be able to talk with you anyway. And we always have great shows together. I mean, and it's because of your friendship. I appreciate that.
Well, it's easy when James and Taylor's on, so that's a no-brainer.
Well, that doesn't hurt, but
yeah. No, I agree with that. All that it's good. I think as we continue to forge ahead, that's only to get better for us. I think for us and fans and listeners and Star Wars in general. I think we've got a long road for fandom as far as Star Wars goes, and we're going to keep bringing it to you.
Let's go ahead and take our last break. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are the podcast you're looking for. This is
Before we get to email, I want to thank our CWK sponsors, the Star Wars Card Trader from Topps, One Nation Coffee, and Harry's Razors. Please support them the way they support our podcast, and remember to listen to new and archived shows of Coffee with Kenobi wherever you listen to podcasts. including places like iTunes, Podcast Addict, Stitcher, Spreaker, Overcast, Blog Talk Radio's website, Player FM, and of course our website, www.coffeewithkenobi.com, or wherever you enjoy listening to your favorite shows. And if you listen to the show through iTunes, please leave us a review. We are also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, and Tumblr, and we'd love for you to check us out there, of course. Be sure to listen to our CWK family of shows too, including Legends Library, Rebels Reactions, Comics with Kenobi, and Lattes with Leia. Please leave a review for each of their shows as well, and be sure to subscribe to each of them individually, as they all have their own feeds now. A big thank you to James Arnold Taylor and Cory Clubb for joining us today. Gentlemen, where can listeners find each of you to hear more about the things you have going on in your worlds and in Star Wars and just anything?
Well, Cory, please go first. Yes.
Oh, my.
Gentlemen first.
I knew he'd do something like that. No, please, yeah. You can find me on Twitter at Cory Clubb, on Facebook, Instagram. I grew a lot of Latte. I have Instagram photos. If you're ever hungry, you can eat my photos. I actually am trying to work. I've got a summer project similar to yours, James. I'm trying to work on an illustrated book that just explores the idea of adoption. We're doing kind of something now, so it's exciting to pursue that. So I would like to do an Instagram story or something like that, just kind of the process of doing that. So hopefully find me there and kind of explore those things.
Wow, I had no idea. That's amazing. And James,
great.
It really. James, what about you, bud?
On Twitter and Instagram and all of those, it's at Jat Actor, J-A-T Actor, because James Arnold Taylor is just ridiculously long. So it's at Jat Actor. And then my YouTube channel, you can search for user James Arnold Taylor, or just do a search and you'll find my channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already. There's 12 episodes by May 4th here. Well, but May 4th, yes. The new episode has just come out, and it's the first one of part 2, and that is going to be a lot of fun for all you Clone Wars fans. And so you can check out all the various videos. I have hundreds and hundreds of videos on my YouTube channel, and I've had so much fun doing that. And so that, and then JamesArnoldTaylor.com is the easy way to go, because it gives you links to all of these various things. But yeah, thank you.
And we will certainly have links to all those things in our show notes. And a big thank you, of course, to each and every one of you for listening to and supporting Coffee with Kenobi, for your reviews and for your feedback. It's always great to have a cup of coffee with you. I really appreciate you taking time out of your week to spend a little time talking some Star Wars with me. And also, being such a positive member of Star Wars fandom means so much. Thank you for continuing to perpetuate that. We will be back, of course, next week, and that will be our 5th anniversary show, our official actual 5th year anniversary show. So if you want to send in any memories or moments or your favorite clips from 5 years of Coffee with Kenobi, please send them in and we'll be happy to share them with the rest of our Coffee with Kenobi family. Thank you so much, everybody. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along.